Okay, trivia time. Time is on the clock. Name 5 things that automatically come to mind when thinking about wealth management or financial advisors. Ready, go.
That's easy. Bored, painful, rather listen to my in-laws, numbers.
Almost there.
Torture?
We have a winner. Let's tell him what he's won. You've won the PennyWise Financial Podcast. Yes, it's a financial show, but we talk to you like human beings talk. Sure, we do the traditional retirement planning and money management, but we also help plan for other decisions, like buying a car, selling a home, buying vacation properties, or selling a business. We're more than financial advisors to you. PennyWise Financial, brought to you by Monarch Wealth Management. This is PennyWise Financial, and this is Constantine Kitrinos.
Good morning, Constantine here with Monarch Wealth Management, PennyWise Financial Podcast. And today we have a guest host, Marcus Kroll from the Kroll Law Firm. Marcus, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So a lot of things are going on this year, kind of a goofy year for, I think, everyone. But one hot topic that a lot of my clients are having, and I know it's a conversation as people are home, spending more time with their family, is estate planning. And that word estate planning can be somewhat intimidating to a lot of our clients and people who might not have a plan in place or think they do. But let's talk a little bit about the estate planning that the Kroll Law Firm focuses on. If you could tell us a little bit more about the areas that you focus on right now.
Sure. So we're a boutique, which means we are a office that only does trusts, estates, and elder law. And along that category, I focus my practice on unique plans like second marriages, unmarried couples, LGBTQ couples, as well as special needs planning for people with disabilities, particularly families with children who may be disabled. And I have a niche in Article 81 guardianship, which if you remember when Britney Spears went crazy and her parents took control of her finances, we do that. Typically, that's when somebody does not do a plan in advance. They have to hire a lawyer to go to court to have the court appoint someone to manage their finances or their health care or living situation.
No kidding. Yeah, I definitely remember that Britney Spears debacle. That's for sure.
Yeah, she shaved her head and attacked people with an umbrella, and that's what her parents did, and that's the analogy I use. Peter Falk, who used to play Columbo on TV, his family had to do one too, but that kind of dates us when we talk about that.
Well, when I hear estate plan, and a lot of my clients hear estate plan, they automatically think big dollar signs. They think got to have 10, 15, $20 million. And the reality is a lot of our clients, so we're practically neighbors, I think less than 2 miles apart. Your office is on the corner of Monroe Ave and Clover, and we're down the street in Brighton, right on Monroe Ave. But we've got a lot of clients that have quite a disparity in assets. So we'll have clients that have, maybe 500,000 in assets. Mom and pop maybe worked at GM or Xerox or Kodak. And then we've got clients that have 10 million plus that have different planning needs. But I always like to think of an estate plan and kind of dummy it down to say estate planning is essentially bundling up, protecting the money that you worked hard for, whatever that amount is, and making sure that it's directed in the right places. How do you broach that topic when people come in and kind of have this perception that an estate plan is going to cost them a lot of money and or maybe they need a ton of assets to protect?
Yeah, so that's a great question because I'm of the opinion that everyone over 18 should have an estate plan, even if they don't have substantial assets. You need, once you're over 18, if you don't have somebody appointed to manage your finances for you, if you can't, or someone appointed to manage your healthcare decision making, if you can't. Like I said, people have to go to court and get a guardianship, which can cost many thousands of dollars versus a few $100s to set a basic plan in place. But really anyone who owns anything should have a plan because if they don't have a plan, New York State has a plan for you.
I'm sure it's a lovely plan.
Yeah. Well, a huge common misconception, for example, is I'm married, so I don't need a plan. Well, under the default rules of New York State, if you're married, half of your assets go to your spouse, half of your assets go to your children. So if your spouse was counting on those assets to support him or herself after your death, it's actually half is going to go straight to the kids who would then, have to decide I want to give what I'm legally entitled to back to my surviving parent. So even something like that, everyone should have even a basic will. And again, it doesn't cost thousands of dollars to do this type of planning. We're talking about hundreds of dollars.
Right. I think that's a good point. I always like to tell them to at least have a consultation, learn more, ask questions, find out more about what you don't know. Even along those lines, married couples who may not have a ton of assets. I don't think the asset part, the dollar amount, is really important. But even with children, what happens if, God forbid, you're on vacation and you pass away? Where does your child go? Who's gonna, So I think there's a ton of different elements to estate planning that might seem a little intimidating or scary.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't even realize how much wealth they actually have. If you've got a house, like you mentioned, you've got a house and a 401k or an IRA and maybe a little life insurance, that can really rapidly add up. I mean, for a 30-year-old, for example, they can get $1 million of life insurance for not a lot of money, and that counts. That's part of your plan. And like you said, you don't want that money locked up for your minor child until they're 18, and then when they're 18, they get it and do whatever they want. My favorite thing to say is to my clients, what would you do with X amount of dollars at age 18? And then that's kind of their aha moment.
I'm sure. Let's talk about on the topic of estate planning. We have a lot of clients that are in the retirement phase that have accumulated assets that are looking for ways to protect that money in the event that they go into nursing home, assisted living, some type of additional care. And some of those folks may not qualify for a long-term care policy. And a lot of those policies have been removed from the shelf so that they're not even as readily available as it used to be. What are some of the tools that you have at the Kroll Law Firm that you might make sense?
Yeah, so this is another path that is fraught with peril and misinformation and bad advice. And again, the people giving the advice generally aren't malicious, but oftentimes they simply don't understand how a lot of these programs work. The way you can pay for long-term care is three ways. One, you can buy a long-term care policy and that can cover it. But like you said, the availability of those policies is really reduced from my understanding. I don't sell any financial products, but my understanding is I do have clients come in and say I didn't qualify, or it's not out there, it's just too expensive. So you can pay with a long-term care policy. You can pay out of pocket. The average out-of-pocket cost, I saw a study recently for Monroe County, the average out-of-pocket cost was a little bit over $15,000 per month. So that can rapidly wipe somebody out. The last way you can pay for long-term care in a skilled nursing facility, a nursing home, is to apply and qualify for Medicaid. And a lot of people think, well, I have to be broke to qualify for Medicaid. And technically there are asset limits, but there are ways to accelerate that eligibility. And there's all sorts of exceptions as well. Certain assets aren't counted towards that limit. So it's really important for the first step to have a power of attorney that allows somebody to do Medicaid and long-term care planning on your behalf. That's the bare minimum. And again, that's not expensive planning. It's not optimized planning, but it gives you more arrows in your quiver, so to speak. And then depending on my client's hot buttons and the fact patterns, do they own a home? Do they own more than one home? Do they own assets in other states? We could start talking about trust or lifetime transfers, but like you said earlier, it's a discussion that is on a case-by-case basis. There are just so many more options out there than people realize because they've simply been told you must spend down to under $15,000 or you won't get Medicaid. And that's simply not true.
Right. And I feel like just on those topics alone, we could probably have an hour discussion on that. But it definitely makes clients understand that there are options. One big question I get a lot from typically the children of parents who are maybe aging and having some challenges, is it ever too late?
No, that's thank you for feeding me that one. That's our tagline if you watch our commercials. It's never too late. So if you have a good power of attorney with the right powers in it, and again, the New York State statutory form lays out certain powers, but there are blanks in the statutory form, and it's really important for an attorney who does this kind of work to include modifications, because an attorney who doesn't do this kind of work doesn't understand the need to have certain additional powers. If you got a good power of attorney, even if no other planning has been done, there's still opportunities to protect assets under the law. It usually works out to, we can generally protect even 50 to 75% of someone's assets even at the last minute if they did no prior planning whatsoever. But again, the scenario I encounter frequently is mom and dad did not go see an attorney, or they went to their real estate attorney and the power of attorney doesn't include the right powers, and now we have to go to court and they have to pay thousands of dollars to get a judge to give specific Medicaid planning powers. And I hate to say it, but I get 2 or 3 a month where they went to their, quote, family attorney. They didn't go to somebody who does Medicaid, where I have to go to court and get a guardianship because the power of attorney is insufficient and the person is so far gone that they can't sign a new document.
Oh, yeah, we encounter that a lot.
It's really sad, and at times it's almost criminal because I see it from frequently the same attorneys who will represent themselves that, oh yeah, I know this, I do this, but because they don't do the back end, because they don't do the Medicaid planning, they just don't get it. So again, there's not malice, it's simply they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah, we have that in our industry too. I mean, there's different areas of focus that we don't, space that we don't play in, and we defer that or refer our clients to somebody that does. I mean, you have to know where you're not going to serve your clients best.
My wife recently wanted to give me a referral. Somebody she does ballet, somebody she does ballet with had a matrimonial issue, and she told her friend, Marcus doesn't do that. And her friend was shocked. Her friend could not fathom that attorneys don't do everything, that there are attorneys who focus in one area and another area. But the best analogy, and it's the same in your industry, and the best analogy I can give is you're not going to go to your heart surgeon for a knee replacement.
Hopefully not.
With that, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back with the show. Is your financial house in order and prepared to meet the ever-changing needs of your family? Whether you're alive and well, approaching retirement, or striving to care for loved ones, you'll want the right firm. You need attorneys that have a razor-sharp focus on trusts, estates, elder law, special needs planning, and guardianships. Kroll Law Firm is your answer. They are committed and dedicated to their clients. Contact the Kroll Law Firm at 585-271-4470 or visit them online at kroll-lawoffice.com. That's kroll-lawoffice.com.
This is PennyWise Financial, and this is Constantine Kitrinos.
Welcome back to the show. We are joined by guest host Marcus Kroll, the Kroll Law Firm. We just touched on the estate planning topic, which is a hot button for a lot of our clients. I want to shift gears a little bit, Marcus. I'd like to talk a little bit about the Secure Act, kind of sneaked into legislation at the end of 19. I wrote about it in a number of articles, blog posts that I shared with our clients. So our clients know a lot about it, but not everyone does. And one of the modifications was the stretch RMD provision. Talk about the impact that you might be seeing. So essentially, the provision which allowed non-spousal beneficiaries to inherit an asset and stretch that out over their lifetime has been removed and modified. Can you talk about how that's impacted planning?
Yeah, it's created kind of havoc on a couple ends. On one end, there's the massive tax impact, and people can do the charts and show the loss of growth because you have to take it out over 10 years or you have to take all of it out by 10 years. There's a couple of exceptions that are really applicable in my world, such as a disabled person or chronically ill person, a minor, or a spouse. The issue is that those people can take the stretch until their status ends. So with a minor, they reach the age of majority. With somebody who's disabled or chronically ill, if they become healthy again. But otherwise, we're looking at that 10-year stretch where a lot of my clients want to control distributions, not necessarily for tax purposes, but because they have a beneficiary who has a need not to get that money in their own name. They might have creditor issues, they might have a disability, or the most common one I hear is, I don't like my kid's spouse, I don't want my kid to have full access to this money and it to become their spouse's money if their spouse decides to divorce them. So what we used to do is and we still do it, we use trust. And back in the day, you could, if the trust were drafted properly, and by properly, I mean you had certain eligible beneficiaries of a trust, and if you tainted that trust with ineligible beneficiaries, you'd lose the stretch. And I won't get into all those details now, but back in the day, a year ago, IRA distributions could go to the trust, and then the trust could distribute those out to the beneficiary or could keep them, and it would be taxed either to the beneficiary or to the trust, and it could be over the beneficiary's full lifetime. So if you've got a 20-year-old, you could potentially get that stretch for another I don't know, 60, 70 years. So now with the 10-year issue, we're losing the ability to really control those assets. They're either going to go out to this beneficiary in 10 years. So if it's a 20-year-old child and they receive an IRA directly through beneficiary designation, they're going to get all that money over 10 years, which could be disastrous. Again, if you're talking about millions of dollars, now you have a vulnerable person. Somebody might come in and pretend to be romantically interested in them, or they might just squander that money. So we can still use the trust, but the problem is now that these beneficiary designations are paid into the trustee can decide whether to distribute them or pay them out. So we've had to change the rules of the trust. But if the trustee decides to keep them in the trust, they're taxed at the highest possible tax rate. I mean, once you're over $12,500 of income inside of the trust, you're at the top tax bracket. So yes, we can control the assets, but we've really lost all the tax efficiency and tax benefit of these accounts. So and this is getting into the nitty gritty. We're talking about, instead of a conduit trust, which is IRA money goes in, IRA money goes out, now we're drafting accumulation trust, which says the trustee can retain this money, and even if it has a negative tax benefit, which it always does if they retain it. So, you know, we're talking to our clients about ways they can maybe try to maximize this. Some of those are working with you and advisors and converting their IRAs into Raw. So that way they pay the tax now, but then they retain the control of the money after their death through this trust. Another tool that seems to work well in the right case is encouraging our clients to talk to an advisor who can provide them with life insurance to cover the negative tax hit that might occur. But again, there's no good solution here. It really has caused chaos, and I wonder if Congress considered the problems that this would create, or if they simply jerked their knees.
It's a great question. It's definitely opened up the door for opportunities of different ways of planning. Like you said, there's no silver bullet. I don't think here. We always preach the building a bench or building your team, which is your accountant or CPA, your attorney, and the advisor. And I've sat in on a number of client meetings held at your office with my client. And a lot of times I'm sitting there taking notes, but just helping to facilitate what actually the outcomes of those meetings. And I think it's extremely important. It sounds like there's a lot of different nuances, which a lot of them I don't know. I'm not an attorney. I don't have any legal advice given to clients. So I think it's a huge value add to have that team of different professionals that know their area very well. And obviously you do. So I think there's a ton of value add there. And the Secure Act, to me, it came out of nowhere. I didn't hear much about it until it was passed.
Yeah, it was a complete shock. I was like, where did this come from? Why are they doing this, right?
Yeah, I really didn't. I mean, you didn't see many publications about it. I didn't hear the rationale. It just kind of came out of nowhere. But it's here, and now we're dealing with it.
Yeah, and the clients, the problem, you really hit the nail on the head. It's really important to work with the tax expert, the investment expert, and the legal expert, because the clients that I'm seeing are shocked when I tell them that. They're like, well, I thought you could always stretch it out. And again, there are exceptions that will allow it to be stretched out, but most of my clients, when we discuss the 10-year distribution schedule, are shocked and angry. Absolutely.
Why not? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just like you said, a year ago, the rules were a little different, and now I don't understand. Especially if they don't know about it, they're kind of blindsided.
So it's like you said, it's the world we're living in. We're trying to work around it. There are some creative solutions to it, but at the end of the day, the government wants tax money, and maybe they're thinking we've got to pay for the corporate tax cut through this, but you know, it's really hammering the average person, the middle class person, and it's creating a lot of complications.
Couldn't agree more. With that, let's take a pause for a break, and we'll be right back with the show.
Is your financial house in order and prepared to meet the ever-changing needs of your family? Whether you're alive and well, approaching retirement, or striving to care for loved ones, you'll want the right firm. You need attorneys that have a razor-sharp focus on trusts, estates, elder law, special needs planning, and guardianships. Kroll Law Firm is your answer. They are committed and dedicated to their clients. Contact the Kroll Law Firm at 585-271-4470 or visit them online at kroll-lawoffice.com. That's kroll-lawoffice.com.
This is PennyWise Financial, and this is Constantine Kitrinos.
Welcome back to the show, PennyWise Financial Podcast. Constantine here with Monarch Wealth Management. Joined by guest host Marcus Kroll at the Kroll Law Firm. So we touched on a couple topics. We looked at estate planning, Secure Act, and a number of different tools and strategies that the Kroll Law Firm offers. Now I want to talk about the craziness going on in 2020. Impact of COVID. I can tell you since mid-March, I've had maybe 2 or 3 in-person client meetings. Mainly, most of the clients I work with are retired, and they've requested phone meetings or Zoom meetings, kind of a different way of doing business, but we're adapting. Curious to know how that's changed the legal world. How are you doing planning? Are you still doing in-person meetings? Or
Yeah, it's kind of a mix. It's almost like every month there's something new because our governor seems to give us dribs and drabs of instruction and then nothing. So initially we got an essential designation because of a lot of the work we do. As I've talked about, the Article 81 guardianships are so essential, especially if someone cannot appoint somebody to manage their money or to manage their healthcare decision making. The courts were open from day one for emergency Article 81. So we were doing those as essential workers. And we were also doing Medicaid applications as essential because the hospitals were under a lot of pressure to discharge people to nursing homes. So then our clients were like, well, dad went to the hospital, now he's in a nursing home. The nursing home wants us to pay $15,000 a month. How do we accelerate dad's eligibility for Medicaid? So the state took the position that because we were helping for people pay for their care in a nursing home, that was essential to getting these people discharged out of the hospitals and into the nursing homes. Now, as you know, the nursing homes have turned into kind of this hotbed of COVID, but they seem to have procedures in place. You know, I know in some places even the staff are not leaving, they're staying there. But that was the initial wave. And then I had a strong wave of my healthcare professionals who needed their planning immediately. So we handled that with phone calls, and then the governor passed executive order that allowed us ultimately to witness documents over video conferencing. So my preference really was to use Zoom. What I would do is I would go to my client's house, which is, talk about value added. I'd go to their house, masked and gloved up. I'd drop the documents off in their mailbox or at their front door. They would pick them up. I would wait in my car. We would walk through the execution with video conferencing, and I would pull in a paralegal as a witness who was often back at the office or at their house to be the second witness for a lot of this stuff. And as long as I got those documents back immediately, myself and the witness could notarize and witness and everything, assuming that during the video conference the client showed us where they signed and declared this to be their signature and all the formalities were complied with. So that's been very interesting to do these signings, you know, using my cell phone in my car or using my webcam on my computer. And it even got to the point where, as I mentioned, we had those guardianship applications. I have had several guardianship trials via Skype. So the courts use Skype for business. I don't know why, but that's the one they use. And it's been wild having an actual court proceeding where you can see in detail everyone's facial reactions. Like I could see the judge roll her eyes when a witness who lacked credibility said something ridiculous, or it's just, that's where we are right now. So right now we're doing a lot of initial consultations by phone, a lot of those signings with Zoom. Although our office is open, we are, for people who either can't seem to figure it out or simply want that in person, everybody at our office has masks. If you come into my office, you have to sign in for contact tracing, then you have to have your temperature taken, and then you are led to a conference room which has plexiglass, and we've got plexiglass at the reception, and everybody wears masks, and we can do the in-person. So we accommodate the clients, but it's been strange, to put it mildly.
absolutely, yeah. I know that the governor had some modifications. I wasn't aware of the notary via video. I mean, this has nothing to do with legal or financial, but I even, during the midst of this, I had my eye prescription was expired and I needed to renew that. I was able to do it through video conference where they recorded everything, and I had a tape measure a certain distance away from the screen. I had to hold up a credit card so they could modify the screen, the image they were going to display. They had me cover each eye, and within minutes, optometrist had a prescription for me. I renewed it through video. Yeah, which
that is wild.
It's 2020 is just a different time, and we're all adapting, I guess, in our own ways. I didn't realize you did house calls like that, and I've had a couple in-person meetings, and it's different. You're wearing a mask, they're wearing a mask. Sometimes can be hard to understand, but even the video calls, I don't know. It's just a different feel when
Yeah,
you're
if
meeting a client.
if your connection isn't great, for example, or if people aren't familiar with the software, you've had, some wrinkles there. But, we're adapting. I want to say we're fortunate we can do our business this way. And honestly, it makes me realize what a bubble I live in, because most of my peers and friends have not lost their jobs. They've been able to do their work remotely. The irony, though, is I have a friend who works in commercial real estate. He manages offices and commercial retail. And he was talking about how he doesn't think he ever needs to go back into the physical office. He can do his whole job via video conferencing. So I asked him, well, isn't that bad for your business where you're counting on people wanting to have offices? Meanwhile, on the other hand, you're saying, I don't plan to ever go to the office again.
And that's tough. I mean, that's a sector when we talk about investing with our clients, we've had exposure to commercial real estate, and it's definitely on our mind with everyone working from home remotely. You have to imagine companies are going to look at the bottom line and say, geez, if we could save X on renting the 13th floor downtown, and maybe we just need a smaller space, the impact that's going to have. But then there's certain industries you just can't, a service industry, a nail salon, a hair salon, gyms, things like that. And I know there's the whole kind of stay at home, work at home industry where you've got everyone with their Pelotons and their online video chats and whatnot. But I think it's going to be a little bit of a different world, but there's ways to modify that for commercial real estate. They may increase rents. Who knows? But there's certain
Yeah,
fields.
I have a client in here yesterday who works for NBC, and he was saying he doesn't think, 30 Rock's ever going to be full again. And meanwhile, my kids are doing ballet in the living room, and I'm doing yoga in the living room with video conferencing. I mean, I'd love to go back to the gym, but yeah, that's where we are. But I think the flip side to that also is residential is going nuts right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, and there's not a lot of inventory, good inventory.
So it's kind of balancing out, because if somebody doesn't have to go to the office, they still got to live somewhere.
Absolutely. Well, I think with everyone being at home too, it's given a different perspective on things that are important. And I've noticed an uptick in calls about estate planning, and maybe our prospects or clients might not use that word estate planning, but it's maybe getting their financial house in order and making sure that they have things in place and tools and instruments to protect the money and assets they worked hard for. Marcus Kroll here from the Kroll Law Firm. It was a good chat. I know we had a few different topics. What's the best way for a prospect to reach you? Should they go to the website, phone, or?
Yeah, so I always encourage people to Google us and read our Google reviews. I can't tell you how many people say, I chose you because I went to Google and I saw you had the most reviews and the highest rating. And that's because we treat our clients like we'd want to be treated. And so I encourage people to read that and then go to our website and look at some of the things we do and some of the resources we post. And for example, I will post this to my website and across social media. And then always you can call me or email me. We return phone calls within a day, which blows some people's minds. They're like, well, the last lawyer I talked to barely called me back and didn't get the work done. It's almost our religion in returning communication within a reasonable amount of time. So yeah, we're very easy to reach. We've got a strong presence out there, and there's a reason. We try to just do the best job. I try to treat my clients, I'd say, as if they were my own parent. Maybe sometimes a little better. I don't know.
Communication, I can't tell you, goes so far. Service, quality, knowledge, respect, integrity. And I can tell you that the Kroll Law Firm is definitely a partner of ours. We have mutual clients that have been happy. And like you said, I think service and communication goes far. When we opened our doors in Brighton, I called 5 sign companies to produce our sign. I had 2 call back, and one that eventually kept in communication, and that's the person that got the job. But it blew my mind that these were 5 companies that made signs for a living, and only 2 called back.
Well, Constantine, you gotta give me the name of the person who did yours, because I've called 3 sign companies and all of them have flaked. I got initial responses and then nothing afterwards. So this is a personal thing. I'd love you to give me your sign person's info, because we want to update our sign.
I definitely will. I'll send that to you offline. Well, thanks again, Marcus. Marcus Kroll Law Firm. This was a lot of fun. Check them out on the website, kroll-lawoffice.com. That's kroll-lawoffice.com. Thanks again.
Thank you.
You've been listening to PennyWise Financial, brought to you by Monarch Wealth Management. Constantine and David really care about their clients. They want to make sure you're happy, so you'll continue to hire them. There's no commitments, and clients are free to leave whenever they want. Think about being able to pick up the phone and call someone for guidance and advice on almost anything, from buying a car, selling a home, buying vacation properties, or even selling a business. Reach out on the website at monarchwealthmanagement.com. There are 2 offices in Rochester and 2 offices in Buffalo. Reach out to us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube, or call us toll-free at 800-480-1580. That's 800-480-1580. Until next time, this is PennyWise Financial, signing off.
The opinions voiced in this program are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities are offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA and SIPC.